Hello and welcome back to our Planet Coaster Harder Challenge Mode series, and we are working on the steam train this episode. However, if you are new to the series, this is a Planet Coaster park built in the challenge mode, game mode of the game. And we have added some rules that you see up on your screen now just to make it a little bit more challenging on us. And we're pretty far in here in episode 35. But getting back to what we're working on, we are reworking our steam train because there was an issue with the way the train was being laid back over itself. The idea initially was that it's kind of like a Dollywood. I don't remember what the name of their steam train is, but it goes up on top of the mountain, has a loop to turn around, and comes back and meets onto the track that will take it back down. It's the same track that took you up that brings you back down, and the game just wasn't working with it. It was giving me all kinds of issues, and while I was simulating, I found that the train would go up, and then somehow the track was connected to itself, but in the opposite direction, so it wouldn't even get to that second station, and it would just immediately just turn around and come right back down the track. So we have completely adjusted that, and now it's a full traditional loop for the train. And what you can also see is we're building a tunnel that's going to connect to the hyper jump that we haven't seen in a long time. So this is a completely different path. It stems off and actually goes over the first drop of Wicked Wolf. And then trying to navigate down this tunnel was a whole blast. But we end up getting something that we like, and we leave it there. Those paths will probably remain the same and never change because of how difficult it is to work with the terrain. And you can see we had to navigate. I hadn't initially planned for it, but I kind of liked the way it was going, so we had to work around the exit there. We do change the path type, which that may or may not change as we go through building into that area. But once we get back out here, we tidy up some of the bridges and the terrain in the area here. You can see we're just kind of mellowing it out in some areas, leaving some areas to be a little bit of a cliff, and then finally building our path that's going to go to the top of the plateau area here, where you have the hyper jump that sticks out of the cave straight up into the sky, because that's going to get some pretty heavy theming on it at some point. Still pretty far away from that though, so. But that is something to look forward to. We are getting closer. We're getting there. Now, this path was such a pain to try and get. It just did not want to function. So you can see I'm using the, I can't remember what it's called in game. The level, flattened terrain, that's what it is. I'm using the flattened terrain with the paths, so the paths do stay level as I'm building up to that, and eventually I got something that works. But now you can see we have to turn off the flattened terrain because it'll make a nice little ugly terrain impact there. But we are working on the station, which is going to be the main focus of this build. So, you know, the build that we have here, I was really struggling with this. There is a gap between the station and Bear's Den or Wicked Wolf, whatever you want to say is closest to it, the little shop center there, and it's on an incline, so there's some really challenging pieces, and it's pretty narrow because of the way Wicked Wolf is up against it, and the train goes up around the side of it as well. So this ends up being a pretty difficult build for me and finding something that I like. But we focus on the station first in the area. But the biggest part of it is we have a engine house for the entire train. And initially I was really struggling figuring out how to, if I just wanted to have one, was it going to be just one that it pulls in? Does it have something on the back? We eventually split it into two, and these are non-functioning. We do use the pieces for the track for the steam train, the iron horse as it's called in game, and it actually looks pretty nice. It's probably a little big. You probably wouldn't see a full engine house where you can keep the train and cars attached, but at the same time, this is a theme park, so we can do whatever we want. We want to keep those pristine as we're building. You can see now we're trying to get the second track in here. So yeah, we get that in there, and then we start working on the actual structure for the engine house. It's a pretty simple structure. We use the in-game pieces for pretty much the entire thing, and you know, I wanted it to have like a little bit older, run-down, nature-y style look to it. So that's why we're using some of the natural wood. We have a couple different wooden elevation changes here for the roof, and I think it just makes it varies it enough to make it seem believable. Now, we do use the metal roofs. I can't remember what they're called. Maybe it's corrugated steel or something like that. But these roofs, I think they look really nice. I rarely use them, and I'm probably going to use them in a couple episodes moving forward here, because I have some ideas that, you know, that kind of fits the theme for what we're going to be building at. So we get in some little pieces here with some windows just to add some uniqueness to the area. We duplicate these quite a bit, all the way down almost. And you know, I like the way that this kind of turns out. It just kind of makes it look a little more interesting. We don't do any scenery or anything on the back side of this building at the moment, so that part looks a little bland. I really think this will come together when we start adding in things around it. We start hiding it with trees and stuff like that. So again, this was probably one of the more difficult builds that I had, even though the building is so simple. We're not using custom pieces, we're not using an extensive amount of pieces. It just wasn't conceptualizing in my mind. So we just kept building to try and find something that was going to work, and I think we found something here. So now the little station area where we have the information queue house, that was just to add some dimension to the building, and we didn't want this to go all the way down, but we did want to have a covered area for the queue and for the place where you get onto the train. Now we completely cover up the operator, and the operator you don't see him at all. Everything about it. I think we even put a door over where he is, and then of course we add these glass pieces in because I don't know, it just seemed like something that you would see. This isn't supposed to be a Western style building, so that's kind of my idea, to trying to get it a little away from that look, because it does have some like I said, Western theme to it. And then the front of the building, that's where the most Western theme comes out of it, and I knew it was going to happen, so I reshifted away from that because I needed a different time to focus to see if I could come up with something different. So we focus on the queue housing, and this is nothing fancy, just some wooden structures, some of the in-game wooden pieces, and I think that turns out pretty nice. And then of course back to the main station, or ticketing building, if you will, and we needed to find a way to make this more interesting. So you can see we're starting to increase the height in the middle, and I think that actually that's pretty good here. But I was gonna really try to have the pitched roofs, and it just wasn't working for me. So we do like a mix of the two. So there you can see we've got a flat roof on there now, and we now focus on what the front of this building is going to look like and how we're going to incorporate the roof to make it a little more interesting, and still try and stay away from the Western theme. And we don't do a good job of staying away from the Western theme, but you can see that we get in the different pieces here. Of course, we have to add in our big haunted beams, because they just kind of make everything look a little bit better. And the front sign, that's another thing that I was really just struggling with. I wasn't being able to see how I wanted this to look. So we actually leave that completely empty for an extended period of time. You know, the next things that we're building here, we completely move away from it. I think we go down and start working on the hill up to the station once we get some of these details added in. And I'm glad I did, because once I did that, I was able to come back and realize it didn't have to be anything extravagant. Just some text on it. So I'm happy with the way that turns out. We are still tidying up some of these areas for the train station, and some of the beams that need to be placed in to make this whole build come together. Of course, there are some windows. We use our technique to just kind of duplicate everything, kind of hover over top of them, and then now we were gonna cover up the operator booth there, but we chose not to because we found another issue with that little overhang revealing some open areas up there. And now we're covering up the operator's booth, adding in the door just because we needed something there. We needed a way to get in there, and then some windows so you can see out towards the train. Now for lighting, we actually don't touch on lighting in the live portion. The whole area is lit though, and it looks pretty nice. We are putting in way too many lights at the moment, so we do remove some of those at some point in the future. We add a couple more a couple more doors to the area, and then I wanted to make sure that we had a door for the engine house. But I also knew that people weren't going to be walking on this side of the train ever, with the exception of maybe the engineer. So it doesn't have to be anything significant. We can cover it. We add in some planters because I felt like we could throw in some green to kind of offset the brown a little bit, because there's a lot of brown in this build. And we do sink in some of the two Tuscan trees, or whatever they're called, after adding in some of the windows to, because I think you would see long and narrow windows that are up a little bit higher, to let in some light into the area, but not necessarily allow you to see into the engine house. We also add in a door so you can get in there, so the engineers can get in easily. And then, like I said, adding in these trees that we just sunk into the ground, randomly placed them, and I think it kind of rounds out that side of the station there. So the not last, we have got quite a bit of building to go still. We start working on our queue house. We wanted it to be different fencing than what we had seen in the rest of the park here. So we go ahead, we try and cover up the curbs for the queue as best we can. we make sure that we have our foundation going into the ground, and then adding in some wooden floor covers, which I have never seen in the game before. So we get those added in, and they look really nice. They're not TMTK, I don't believe. If they were, I completely botched that, because probably wouldn't have used them then. But they look really nice. They're really easy to use, so I was really happy to be able to do that. And you know, it just kind of made this process a little bit simpler, because I really do not like working on queues and railings, especially after the Falcon episode, where we had to do the whole stairs, the turn, and everything. That just took way too long. So it was nice for these to at least be pretty straight. We did a couple different railings in here. We of course used ropes in the middle, because those don't have to be anything significant. And yeah, I'm very pleased with the way the queue has turned out for this steam train here. Now, once we get through finishing up this last little corner here, I think we try and get the little exit there. We try and get the path cover to line up there. I was going to try and keep it the same direction, but it just wasn't working for me. It didn't look right. It was gonna expand into the actual train itself, so we end up using a cross wood pattern at that specific area, and I think it looks fine. I don't even think I realize it now. I don't even look at it. So that's always a great thing, to not see something that was bothering you at some point, because I tend to focus in on those a lot, which is why we do all these little details and changes and whatnot. And we make our own paths, we make our own railings for paths and curbs and all that stuff. So covering up the little bollards there, I don't know what you would call those, with some wooden beams, because I thought that they kind of stuck out pretty far in that area. So that was something that needed to be done. Of course, add in our wooden beams, or our wooden floor cover, and that looks pretty nice. Now, going back over towards Bear's Den, and the station, I wanted to have some rocks in there. I knew this was going to be like a rock wall as an elevation change, so I wasn't really looking to put anything additional in there, but we did need to make sure that everything was going to kind of line up there. I wasn't planning on keeping the rocks all the way up to the entrance, but at the same time, I didn't know what else I would do, so I thought it was better to probably just build that and go with it, and see if I need to change it later, which I don't, because I think it looks pretty nice. Now, the rock curbs, those are becoming increasingly easier and easier to use, and they go quick, and I don't have to mess around with them very much, so I'm surprised I didn't use more of them, because you can see we just copy and pasted a bunch and got all the way up that hill, and that hill was a concern for me, because I knew that was going to take some time. But adding in some foliage, some trees, that area kind of rounds out pretty quickly, and then of course a tree up at the top just to add more elevation, and then the creosote bushes, they also add some nice colors and whatnot to this area. And then I did want to try and keep some tall trees in this area. Like I said, this is like a nature area, like a woods forest type area, so trying to add in as many tall trees as I can, but I wanted to be mindful of where the sight lines were going to be, so that is definitely something that we needed to be aware of. Now, what you see here is we've copied our fence from the Wicked Wolf queue, And I thought this fence just looked so good that I wanted to try and use this in more areas than one. Now you're going to see a cut here, and it's going to happen very quick once we get up to the top of this hill. I actually had my computer crash on me on this one, so there is some pieces that we missed. And now you can see we've got a whole structure here, and this is probably one of my favorite parts of this build. I was trying to figure out something that could go between the path and Wicked Wolf, and it needed to be long and narrow, and the only thing that was coming to mind was axe throw. I don't know why, but that's what I was coming up with, so that's what we go with. Now, obviously, axes aren't in the game, and I didn't want to use like one of the targets from the shooting game because I felt like they were a bit much. It'd be a little bit too bright. But the archery piece of everything, I thought that would be really good and really cool to see. So obviously without axe throwing being in the game, we can turn this into a cool little archery shooting game where you just go and try and hit the target. And you know, that'd be a nice little way for the park to monetize this area, where there's really not much more going on. It makes it look a little bit more interesting, and I think it just is a neat idea. But it did take a little bit of time because of the crash and whatnot, but we did get all of that set up, and then we're able to fill in some of the rocks just to kind of cover up the last little areas here. And I think we even throw in a bench at some point to just kind of cover up that area even more. So and we do throw an archer in there. He's there shooting away at the target, so I know a lot of people use those to check on the scale of what they're building, but I'm actually using them for some functional purpose, or at least to look like he's a functional guy playing the game. And you know, now that I'm thinking about it, we probably should start selling the archer hats in the Hats Fantastic shop. But we don't do that in the live portion. I just forgot to do that. So yeah, so there we go. We add in the benches, and then we add in a new AI created sign for the archery. I think it looks really cool. I didn't want to have to go through and build a custom sign for something that's not even functional, so that's why we got that in there. We don't spend a whole lot of time on it as well either. Now, the little tunnel here that Wicked Wolf goes through, we needed to add in rocks because obviously this is a wolf's lair type of area. So we focus on getting as many rocks in here as possible to make this look as authentic and real. Like we just kind of cut into the area to extend the length or deepness of the drop. And I'm really pleased with the way this turns out. This is a lot of rock work, and trying to get them to line up just right wasn't all that easy. It took a lot more time than I was really hoping for, but you can see we're already done. We've finished up the terrain painting, and you know, trying to figure out what else we're going to do. Obviously, we just get a little distracted and go on a dirt terrain painting extravaganza, and really terrain paint, it makes the park look so much more realistic just by painting the terrain a little bit. And you know, I'm really happy with it. But we finally get back to this little bridge here. We use the same wooden structure that we used for the train station, and we focus just on the bridge and how we're going to make this work. So course, we use our haunted wooden beams because they are great. You know, they're a good thickness for what this is. And they help us cover up a lot of the under area. And then we go right back to these corrugated roof pieces that we throw so that there's just a little bit of an overhang outside of the bridge, but not too much. And they don't need any support because they can be connected directly to the rocks. And then you can see we're adding in the speaker here, and it's just one speaker. We only needed one, and we know exactly what we needed to do with this. So once we get that speaker in, we go in, put our steam pieces in the bottom, and then it's just the process of lining up the trigger so that we can get it so that the coaster, as it's going through, is going through steam and hearing the howl of a wolf. And that, honestly, that didn't take too long. It was more of an annoyance to try and reposition the steam as we got through it. But the railings for the bridge are just going to be the standard railing that we use coming up the walkway here, the same one that was used for Wicked Wolf's Queue. And we're probably going to use these quite a bit moving forward, so we'll have to, we don't want to overuse them, but at the same time, you know, we've have them in a couple different areas at the moment, and you know, I still think we have some capacity to use those a little bit more as we start going up into that area towards the tunnel. And they're easy to use. That is part of it. Just being able to copy and paste things easily is a huge component of it. So now you can see we are connecting the last couple pieces here. We do work on getting some of the lights in, and of course we're going to use the same lights that were added to the beginning of Whistler Valley, and that's just to stay consistent. I think that works pretty easily. I did toy with the idea of making the ones by the bridge there flicker before the train comes, but I thought that was just too much. I didn't think it was necessary, considering we don't really play with the park on night at nighttime. So really that would be more of a visual for me when I'm just running the simulation between episodes, and I don't really need to do that. It would look cool, but that would be about it. Now back over to the station building here. Trying to figure out how we're going to cover up the front area. I did want to have like a little wooden step area here, as well as like a little porch to get into the building on this side, because this would be elevated a little bit because of the way the station platform is. So I do kind of wish I wouldn't have used the wooden floor there. Wish I would have just used the floor that I had been using, but honestly I think it tends to work out just fine, and it's nothing. Once we put the cover to the porch on, you hardly notice it, and we start adding in some different details and whatnot. But you can see we're adding just a little covering there, and we'll split that out and move it out so it covers it a little bit better than what it was initially. Add in a door, a window, and I think we even put a planter in over here. Do we use that? No, we use the log planter, because that tends to line up with the theme a little bit better. And then inside the information, the blue was a bit much for me for this type of build, so obviously we're going to add in some wooden beams to set up the platform. We put the wooden platform on the bottom so we can cover that up, and then we add, of course, blue wallpaper. So I don't know what the purpose or what my thought process was when I wanted to get rid of blue and then I just add blue wallpaper. It doesn't seem to make any sense to me. But that's what I did. So that's what we leave it with. And I think at one point I even thought of that, and I was like, why did I do this? But why did I even need to change it in the first place? And I debated about deleting it, and I just said, you know what, it's fine. We're hardly ever going to look in there, so let's just leave it, not have to worry about it, and move on. And then, of course, the ATM, we change the colors on that a little bit to blend in a little bit more. We do add signs inside the wall, because I couldn't fathom ones that didn't look all of the signs would have just stuck out in this type of theme. So we sink them into the wall, so we still get the effect of them, but they're not actually there. And then, of course, putting on the words and the verbiage for the different areas. So obviously we have the ATM, and then we have a tickets window, which you would buy tickets to the train, but they are in reality the priority pass tickets. So we get those in there. I did use a font that I really like, but the lighting on it tends to look really weird sometimes. But we end up getting something that I was pretty pleased with, and of course adding some windows here. Now, I did want to put in a water tower, so we do get a ginormous water tower in here. And I wish I would have thought to do this beforehand, because we probably could have just substituted this for the station building, made the station building a little bit smaller. But, you know, I kind of like where the water tower ends up being. I think it adds a nice little dimension to this area. And then, of course, we take our fences here, and they're going to be offset a little bit from the path, and the path itself is going to kind of roll back on here. Now, when I was building this, I wasn't sure how I wanted to get over these train tracks, whether I wanted to go up and over and make a bridge. Did I want to raise the terrain up so I could get over it that way, or did I want to make just a crossing? So we end up doing a crossing here in a little bit, and I think this is the right way to go for that. The crossing, obviously it doesn't function the right way. Like if people are they're just going to continue to walk through if a train's coming, and the train's just going to run them over. And of course it doesn't impact them, but you know, trying to figure out how I wanted to do that. I wish there was a function that it did actually work as a functioning railroad crossing, but I'm sure the coding on that would be just absolutely insane. So we make do with what we got, and we do extend the path out as a crossing, but we don't do any theming for the crossing at this time. But what we do work on, and what you've been looking at here recently, is the backside of the engine house. We are going to make the train have a connection to the back, into the back of the house, the engine house. So this would be, it's a little interesting because of the way it connects. It actually, if the train were to come through the actual engine house, it would actually put the train on the track the opposite direction, which is pretty weird, but that was the only way that it was going to work. So, and honestly, I'm pretty happy with the way it turns out. It looks really nice. It's probably my favorite part of the build, and you know, just adding in some of these little fences just kind of rounds out the area. And yeah, there's really not much more to say about this area other than, you know, we add in some of the rocks and foliage to round it out. And of course the terrain painting, that impacts it a lot as well, but there wasn't a whole lot that we had to do in this area. Now, what we move on to next here, once we add in some of these last couple rocks, I believe we jump into that little area inside Wicked Wolf, just past the bridge. And oh no, we're gonna do the crossings for the train. So we flatten out this area, map up where we want to go. We're probably not, this is probably going to be the permanent structure or layout for this path, because this train is so hard to function with. And you can see I'm struggling so much with trying to get this. And you see I tried autocomplete and it was doing some type of weird thing there. So we ended up having to delete the train back a couple pieces, and there it did another type of loop thing that I didn't understand. But eventually we got it, and it all kind of works out. We bring our wooden curb up to the edge of the track, and then of course we take our fence and we tidy up this last little piece. So this is a lot of this fencing that's being built right now is probably going away in the next episode, but I wanted something to kind of close off the area. So and honestly, it doesn't take all that long to get that put in and corrected. So there we go. Now we're moving into this little area, and what you're going to see here is my attempt at a high striker sledgehammer game. And it doesn't go well. It does not go well at all. You can see I'm really struggling. I'm trying to use art shapes. I had an idea of what I had a reference picture for one specifically at Knoble's Grove. I really like that one. I've never actually played it. I don't care for the game itself, but trying to make something along these lines, it just wasn't bad. Like, this isn't terrible, I don't think. But when I got frustrated in a second here, I went to look what other people had done on the Steam Workshop, and I found a really, really cool one. And we will put that link to the Steam Workshop page for this one. You can see we just put it in the description, because this one is just so good. It only uses, I think it's only one TMTK item, and it's those 70-watt bulbs on the side. I couldn't not put this in. And I tend to like to build everything myself, but I knew for this area, this thing is tiny. This would have taken me hours to build this. So you'll have to forgive me and give me a pass on this one, because I didn't want to spend hours building something that's really not going to do anything in the game whatsoever. And for such a small piece, that it would have just extended this video out much longer than what it needed to be. So we used the one that we got here, and I'm sorry I don't remember his name. We'll put a card in the top of the screen here with the name and the link to that Steam Workshop page. But now that we've got that in, it's time for supports. And you know, the Wicked Wolf supports, wooden supports are annoying to begin with. This one specifically was just annoying, because why did the game want to give us one extra piece of in-game supports but not the rest of the curve? Like, that just blows my mind that it wanted to do that. I wish it would have either did it all or did none of it. And because of it only wanting to do that one extra, like, square support structure, I had to come up with my own for the outside of this, and to make it look like it's actually a part of the supporting structure. And honestly, I think it turns out pretty nice. I kind of wish that it wouldn't have given us anything, and we would have been able to do it on our own. We would have probably had it come out a little bit further. It is pretty narrow at the moment, and I don't know if there would have been a really good way to fix that, but honestly, what we build, I think it looks really good. The nice thing is the in-game supports that were there, they are hidden by the coaster, so you're not going to see that all that much. And honestly, they look probably better than what I built, so you know, I'm happy with that. I did not want to completely remove the in-game supports to do my own thing. That was just going to take too long when realistically they look really good, and just adding my little bit to the outside here looks just fine. And it certainly is tedious to go through and add these beams, but it's certainly worth it in the end, and I'm really happy with the result of this. And this is probably the worst part, these cross beams that we're doing, trying to get those all the way up here, because it was too short of a span for the 4H beam, but it was too long of a span for the 4H beam, but too short of a span for the 2H beam. So we had to have multiple pieces, and then we had to align them differently so we didn't have any Z fighting. And that's really what gets me. If I could just put the beams down and go, and there wasn't any Z fighting, we'd be doing a whole lot more supporting. But that's not an option. So we eventually get everything done here, and then I think we do some fence work around the base of the coaster here. Of course, we have to add our footers in to make those look nice and official. Take a little bit of a gander around it, make sure that we have all of the colors right. At some point I think I did that. Yeah, you can see I'm starting to select different things. I did want it to be its own separate building, if you will. And then on to the fences. So I knew that we needed to have some type of fence around this area. Obviously, you don't want people to get down into that trench, so we add in some chain link fence at the edge of the wooden fence there on the inside, and then of course it's a chain link fence pretty much around the entire outside of the coaster here, just to so you can still see it. I mean, there's no need to not be able to see in there. And then on the other side, I was debating that I may want to put in like a little shack with some type of souvenir there, similar to like a wood station or a carpenter's station or something like that. But I ended up just opting not to do that. I didn't think it was necessary. I thought with how our economic struggles have been with our shops and stalls, this was not the time to be exploring with that. Maybe we'll come back and do that to try and monetize that space a little bit better. But, you know, no one's really going to be walking there until we start getting a couple episodes through. So, you know, just adding in some trees to add some colors, and then of course the fencing to finish everything up. And it all looks fine. Finish up our different lighting structures, and we're pretty much wrapping up what we've done here. Of course, we have to add in our little steel beams underneath here, because the wooden coaster would still have those for the additional support as for the path work. I didn't think about it, but I probably should have put some type of cover over the path there. And then so maybe we'll take a look at doing that here in the future. You may have to remind me as we go, but the last part here is just making the little Whistler Valley sign that we can put at the front of the park. And, you know, I really wanted to have the brick pieces on the outside here, but it just wasn't going to work, so we ended up just doing a very, very simple wooden sign with some font on it. But we are quickly wrapping up the time-lapse portion of the video. So I am going to let you enjoy the last few seconds of this, and I will see you in the live portion. Welcome to the live portion of today's video, and we are here looking at probably the smallest amount of work that we did during this episode. The little Whistler Valley sign as you enter this area of the park. Of course, you got a nice little overlook through the, or over the Falcon queue line, looking at the Wicked Wolf lift hill, which I think is pretty nice. But you know, we'll go ahead, we're gonna jump into just overlooking what we did work on today, and we just kind of walk through the valley here. You can see we're walking past Wicked Wolf, Bear's Den, our shops on the side that are not open, but here we are getting to the area that we worked on. And the first part here, we did a little game, which this ideally would be axe throwing. I think that's a little more realistic for what you would see in a park. I mean, it's still a little out there, giving people axes to throw at people, but we're going to use it as an archery game instead. And the idea is these fences would make sure that the arrows are not going to go through and hit someone. So you only have the one here, you'd have to pay over here. But obviously, Planet Coaster, you don't have games, so this is all just pretend. But as you come up here, you do see we have a train station, and this is currently open, and we are zigzagging our way up here. And yeah, so this is currently opened because I've already recorded this. This is actually the second time I'm recording the live portion here. I didn't like the way the first one turned out, and I figured, you know, I was just going to run the simulation anyway, so I didn't think it was that big of an issue. We didn't change really that much. So we are looking here at the Whistlestop Station. Nothing outrageous here. A pretty basic train station. It does have the queue that, let's see if we can get a better view of it, goes all the way down and comes back, so that way it'll have enough people, if we get enough people in line for this, for each train. And then on the other side, of course, we have the water tower that you would need for a steam train. You have the engine house, and this can house 2 engines along with the cars for the train. So this is a transportation ride. It is not functioning as a transportation ride at the moment. It is going to be like a flat ride, so we are operating it as such until we get the second station open up here. And you'll notice I did put the fencing in all the way around. It goes all the way through here and then stops at the tunnel. There is a break from the tunnel all the way to the other side and down the hill on the other side of the creek past Falcon. So technically the park is closed off. We did also connect it all the way over to Steel Eagle, so we do have an official boundary at this point, but there are some gaps because of the different terrain changes, which I think would be pretty feasible. Now, I did think about putting a fence here just to kind of block it off, but I didn't think it was necessary. We are going to be working on this area in the next episode. It would more or less just look weird because you could still see everything over here anyway, so we just leave that be. Now, if we go back down here, down our path, we make the turn here, we can cross over the Wicked Wolf. And the Wicked Wolf had some upgrades to it. We added in speaker. We also added in some steam effects. Now these are triggered, so they aren't going to happen at the moment. As they come down, the steam turns on. This is just the standard wolf howl that we have going off the station, so you get that a second time as the train flies underneath here. And I think that adds a really cool effect, and I'm really pleased with the way that had turned out. And then we have this awesome little sledgehammer game. Now, when I was coming up with this idea, I was thinking that it would be an axe game where you're like chopping down a tree. But, you know, this I think is a pretty reasonable comparison to it. And this is not mine. I did not make this one, so we will put the link to where you can download this off the Steam Workshop in the description. There are some TMTK items on here, and I believe it is just the lights on the side. But, you know, I did take a shot at trying to build one of these, and it wasn't getting anywhere close to looking like this. And I figured, you know, when I was looking for inspiration, I said, well, let's see what other people have built. This one was too good to pass up. So that's what we got. Also, it's got the red, yellow, green lights going crazy. So, you know, I'm pretty pleased with that. And of course, just some trees and stuff to close out the area. You come across here, you have a nice view of the station. And there you get the steam as well as the howl as the train flies through. And then, of course, what I did mention, we did reconstruct the steam train path. Originally, it was intended to be just one set of tracks between the stations. It was not working, and actually, when I would test it, the train would come all the way up here, all the way out in front of the hyper jump here, get over here, and then somehow it was connected to the track just going backwards. So it would go, and then the trains would do like a hard switch and just come straight back down. So I don't know why that was happening, but I didn't want to continue to mess with it because it wasn't the first time that was happening. So we just continued, we rebuild it, we add the station in going this way, and then we add in a nice downward slope as it goes all the way through and comes back through this tunnel. So I am very, very pleased with the way this episode turned out. It was a lot of tedious work in this one. I really like this area with the train tracks splitting off and coming into the area. But it was, yeah, it was very tedious work, very annoying stuff, and probably not all that entertaining to watch, but I do appreciate it if you did watch through it, so because I did put a lot of effort into it. But let's go ahead, let's get into our park management features. Now, as we take a look here, everyone's at 100% happiness. Empyrean was our most profitable ride coaster last month. Propeller Smoothies, very good as well. I feel like we have lost a lot of money this month since I've turned on the recording, so that's exciting. We did have a challenge that I had completed. It got us $2,000, and that was to make a coaster that was over 200 seconds, I believe. And I want to say Empyrean just broke down, so it registered the ride as being over 200 seconds. So we got that one by default, but now it's added a restaurant one in here, so that's gonna be a while until we open Sewer Squad again. But yeah, back to our management features. So everything's looking pretty good here. We do have two rides that are broken down. The most popular ride is the Sky Ride, which is pretty wild. We do have an active marketing campaign, which I think we might. Now we'll continue with it, see how it reacts a little bit more. Nothing too interesting in those tabs that we just went through. Our finances, you can see we've lost $3,000. And apparently our shops and stalls have lost us a ton of money this past month. Everything's been red. So that's pretty not good. but I think we're going to bounce back here. We had a pretty low ride in tickets. Crankshaft just got fixed, so that lost us a bunch of money. Wow. Ride ticket sales, 16,000. Coaster ticket sales, only 3,000. So yeah, coasters were breaking down. We've been having some really bad breakdown issues lately. So that's been really hurting our money. We're going to bounce back here, though. I'm pretty confident. So we'll probably have a big month for June. Priority pass sales. We're starting to sell priority passes, which is really exciting. And, oh, actually, our coasters lost money for us last month. That's pretty crazy. Our shop sales, we lost $1,000. We just didn't make the money. We are trying to get a little bit back with our facility sales, and that's at our ATMs. We're charging $1 every time someone wants to use one of our ATMs. I think that's pretty reasonable. Our hotel sales at $590, so we made good money for the hotel, at least, not in general, but we did make some money with our hotel, and then obviously our restaurant is closed. Our park management, that we know we are going to continuously lose money. We're dropped $1,000 there, so maybe we should stop the marketing. I don't know how beneficial it is. So maybe we will stop that here this episode. And nothing else that is sticking out. Our loans, nothing there. Graphs. I mean, they're graphs. You can see we've had some loans, but we haven't had loans in a long time. Our research, we don't have any of that. Our marketing, let's just go ahead. We're just going to cancel that. We're going to try and save that money. I don't know if it's necessary for us to have that. We've spent $108,000 in marketing, and I just genuinely don't know if it's actually done us any good. So we'll try and see how that impacts us moving forward. Now our staff, and as always, if you are interested in becoming a part of the park, please let me know in the comment section which staff character you want to be, and we will get you hired in here as an employee. And we can see we have 4 different entertainers. Ooh, he has a high workload. That's kind of weird. But we got Daniel Pospichal, Kay Dancer, Alfian, Clan Moraine, all doing great work for us here in the park. Our janitors, they are doing quite well. Everyone's workload is normal, and I haven't seen too many issues with the park being dirty. Our vendors are doing just fine. That was not the way I wanted to do that. So we got Goku over 9,000. And everyone seems to be good here. I don't know if we do. Yeah, we do have a high, but she's resting in a staff building, so that's fine. Low. Yeah, everything's good on our vendor side, which is kind of weird. Our mechanics, Arch doing great work. We do have some people. John is a little overworked at the moment, which we do have quite a bit of mechanics, so I'm not sure why we're seeing that issue. Sean Kochek Roussard out in Whistler Valley. I really don't think there's any issues here. And Sean, I think, is doing just fine. Our security team, they are constantly busy. They are all maximum trained, but they're doing a pretty nice job as well. And then our work roster, we did rename the work roster to Whistler Valley. So we have someone just assigned directly to this area of the park. Now our demographic breakdown, we got 32% of adult groups, 30% teen groups, and 38% family groups. I'm not sure. I mean, the families obviously spend more, but they also spend more time in the park. I don't think they make the most money for us. It's all kind of close. They're all pretty comparable. So if anything, the teen groups maybe, because as the teen group goes out, we might get a teen group back in quicker, so they spend more money quicker. But again, I don't know if there's really any need to really try to adjust that. And that may get better as we get more coasters into the park and more thrill rides, which we are going to do here coming up. So obviously we have Wicked Wolf, which is going to be classic here soon, which is going to help us significantly. Falcon's going to be classic, and then we're going to be adding some new rides in the next couple episodes. Now, the energy staff of guests, 72%. I think that's fine. Hunger is 60%, thirst 46%, toilet 62%. Yeah, I just think these three are just from people standing in line, so I don't think there's anything to worry about that. And then our nausea is at 99%, which I think is really, really good. Our guest thoughts, yeah, so thirsty, Bear Paw Eats being too busy, and the Empyrean queue being full. And these are continuously moving around, but Skyride is so much cheaper and is only a short walk away. I just don't... The transportation rides just kind of get me in this game. One of my least favorite features. I love that they're in the game, but I think there's some type of mix up with how popular they should be and when guests are using them. So, but again, I love the game. That's a very minor nitpick. Our graphs, they are pretty comparable all the way through. Now our attractions, let's see, we're on June 18th, so we should be able to get through here. Crankshaft made a bunch of money, so that's because it broke down right at the beginning of the month, or right at the end of the previous month. Baggage Carousel making $2,000, that's fantastic. Empyrean, $1,700, that's pretty low for Empyrean. And it's pretty scary that I don't even see Steel Eagle on here. Carousel made $11,000, so that's good. Rally Racers $1,100. Scissor $1,000. Stunt Pilot almost $800. Hercules over $700. Air Traffic Control $470. Solar Eclipse doing well. Oh, Baggage Carousel is going to lose some money. Balloon Flight made $360. That's pretty good. Our parking tram, they are expected to lose its steam train, which we don't have a name for. So if you have a name for that, please let me know in the comment section, and we will get that named. We are going to keep Whistlestop Station, obviously. Then Falcon losing 430. That is now old, so that is to be expected. Skyride losing money. And I don't know if this is double or if this is just supposed to be one. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect for that. Aerial Attack, that lost a lot of money. Wicked Wolf reviving, but that's still losing money. And then Steel Eagle lost $1,300. So that should have a pretty massive impact for us in this next month. But overall, I think we're doing okay. I think it was just kind of one of those months where we just had a bunch of breakdowns. We have made a little bit of money, even though, or no, we haven't. We've lost a little bit of money. But I think that that's all going to balance back here shortly. Now, our shops, let's see what we got. The propeller shops, they always do really well. The Skyride shops actually tend to do pretty well also. Bear Paw Eats, doing really good. Wing It Tiki Cheeky, that one's kind of weird. That one doesn't tend to make a lot of money. Another Skyride shop making good money. The gift shop over at Steel Eagle made a little bit of money. Barrel Rolls, that one's been up and down. That one's had some big months in there. This ticket shop is making us money, which is wild. I just can't believe that makes us money. Bear Paw Eats, again, making us money. Baggage balloons. Some of the vending machines. Staristas. Street Fox Coffee making us money. We're finally getting some people into that shop. But let's go down. We go past all these closed shops. And then we're going to get to some of the very negative shops, which are a little scary. So there are quite a few. One of the highest sushi at Barrel Rolls. Vending machine, obviously. Levint Set, not that bad. Cosmic Cow losing money. Looney Balloons at Rallying Racers, that's losing money. And then obviously the tickets and the guest services, I completely expect them to lose money the entire time. Gifts to go. That one, to me, is kind of weird that it loses money, but, you know, there's not much that we can do about that. Wing It Tiki Chiki, for whatever reason, that one tends to lose a lot of money as well. And then the Hat's Fantastic at Falcon, that will lose money, so we might just close this down for now. We'll keep the vendor hired, but I think we're losing more money at the moment. So we'll close that one down so we can at least save $600. When this starts to become, or starts reviving, we'll reopen this shop, because then both of these will be classic. It'll have the assist of the train here, and then whatever our new attraction is out on the side here. So we'll try and get that open here in one of the upcoming episodes, but we'll try and save it for now. Our facilities, we know we're going to lose a bunch of money here. Nothing's making us money, but the ATMs are trying. All of them. What's this one? And of course the one that's out at Whistlestop is not making us any money because there's not enough people in that area. Our small attractions, those are going to continuously, it's pretty much negligible. We're losing about $50. I'm not too concerned about that. Our hotels, Sleepy Steward is making us some money, which is nice. Wow, Steel Eagle is getting a bunch of people to come in, which is awesome. Bear's Den is not open. That will open when we get more people into the area. And then our restaurant, Sear Squad, not open yet. So overall, I think we're doing pretty good with our shops. Now, our security management, we have 17 people in the park that have been pickpocketed. There's a lot of pickpocket victims, but, you know, this park has been open for 170 years, so we've been doing pretty decent, I believe. So our security cameras, we have 18 of them around the park. They cost us $900, which is wild, but at the same time I kind of understand that. Our bins, we don't have any damaged bins, which is nice. And then our special effects, all of that looks pretty good. So yeah, again, not a super exciting episode here with the updates to the train. We are going to have some really exciting stuff coming up here. Really, the next two episodes I think are going to be really good. We're going to be working on this area and then this area. So I do hope you come back to see those when they come out. I'm hoping they don't take too long to get out. The one in by Wicked Wolf here, that one is going to be a pretty big attraction there. The one out here I don't think is going to be too crazy, but this is definitely the one to look forward to, and that's probably 2 episodes away. So overall, again, I am happy with the way this all turned out. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like. If you saw something I could have done better, let me know in the comment section. And if you want to see some more awesome Planet Coaster content, please subscribe to the channel. So again, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Later.